How are we doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another UFC prediction video. Today we're talking UFC 301 live from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Alexandre Pantoja takes on Steve Erceg in the main event here in Rio. Pantoja, main event in his hometown. Should be a good card, but let's be honest, this card's probably not going to follow up what we've seen on UFC 300, but that card was so stacked that we kind of, we're in the situation when we kind of deal with this one. It's a sacrifice for such a stacked card, but without further delay, let's get into predicting UFC 301 Pantoja versus Erceg. First fight of the night, we have Paul Craig versus Cal Borralho. I believe that's how you say his name. Borralho. We're gonna go with Borralho. That sounds more, it feels more correct to me. The 17-7 Paul Craig versus the 15-1 Cal Borralho. Oh, I'm just pronouncing this guy. This guy's name different every time. Let's be real here. We all know where Paul Craig's trying to get this fight. Paul Craig is gonna try and get this fight to the ground as soon as possible. He wants to use his old jiu-jitsu on this guy, which is crazy to think that a Scottish guy's probably got better jiu-jitsu than a Brazilian. But in this fight, it really comes down to how good Cal Borralho can strike and how well he can defend a takedown, because Paul Craig's going to try and defend a takedown. But from what I've seen, Cal Borralho has got great striking. He can pretty well knock you out from just about anywhere. So I'm going to rock with Cal Borralho. If he can defend a takedown, I do think he'll do really well against Paul Craig. Paul Craig's very hittable. His chin's up in the air, and I do think Cal Borralho can personally knock out Paul Craig in the first round. Personally. But we'll see how the fight goes. I think personally this is great matchmaking on the UFC's part to get a young superstar in there with a good vet in his hometown, and I think Cal Borralho can get a great performance in front of his Brazilian crowd in Rio. Give me Cal Borralho to win by first round knockout. Next up on the pay-per-view, we have Michel Pereira versus Iho Poetea from out of Ukraine. Another Brazilian fighting in Rio. Are you surprised? Let's be real. Michel Pereira is fighting a last-minute opponent. I can't remember who he was originally supposed to fight, but this Iho Poetea guy, I'll give him some credit. He's got some balls, because apparently in June in Saudi Arabia, he's gonna fight the one-eyed fella, that Said Magomadev, whatever his name is, the eye patch fella. He fought on the Islam Folk 2 card, if you remember him. That's the one thing I really have to talk about this guy. I mean, what's his record even looking like? 20 wins, 5 losses. I mean, he's got a pretty good resume, to say the least. But I mean, debut in the UFC on short notice in Brazil against Michel Pereira. I think Michel Pereira can do 20 backflips over this guy and get a W here. So give me Michel Pereira. I think he's going to get the win. But I'll say it's a decision. I think this guy will be a tough fight, but I think that short notice will play an effect. And I'm going to go with Michel Pereira by a unanimous decision. Third fight on this pay-per-view, we have Anthony Lionheart Smith versus Vitor Pereira, live in Rio. We know that. I've said that about 5 times now, at least. But we all know Anthony Smith. He's almost become a bit of a meme at some points, but very experienced in the octagon, I will say that. 37 wins, 19 losses. He's got over 60 fights. Wait, let me do the math here. Is that over 60? I'm not going to bother counting that right now. But Anthony Lionheart Smith, veteran of the game. He fought about 3 hours from my hometown, which is kind of cool to say. So did Sean Strickland and Calvin Kattar too, now I think about it. Well, Derek Lewis fought about an hour away from where I live. Do your research, you might be able to find out where I live. But Actually, don't do that. That's kind of weird. But, yeah. He's fighting a young, undefeated guy in Vitor Pereira. And, I mean, this guy looks... When I imagine Hercules, that's what I imagine this guy's physique looking like. I mean, god damn. But I was listening to a podcast, as I don't know a whole lot about Vitor Pereira. I was listening to the Michael Bisping podcast a little bit today before I started recording this video. I know he's a little biased considering he does the podcast with Anthony Smith, but if Anthony Smith can get Vitor to the ground, I think, well, Anthony will have a better advantage. But if he stays and strikes on the feet with this guy, could be a rough night for Anthony Smith. But I mean, I can see the pressure getting to someone like Vitor Pereira. You know, home crowd, young, undefeated guy. There's going to be a lot of pressure. He doesn't want to lose his O, especially in front of his home crowd. But I'm going to... My gut's telling me Vitor Pereira. I think he's going to outstrike Anthony Smith. I think Anthony Smith is just going to want to out-tough it with this guy. And maybe Vitor has the better gas tank. And I can see him getting the first 2 rounds. Maybe Lionheart gets the last round. But I'm going to rock with Vitor Pereira to get the job done by decision in this fight. Well, I never thought I'd be talking about this guy in the year 2024, but the King of Rio is back, Jose Aldo, back in the octagon. That is actually crazy to me. Man, how old is Jose Aldo now? Let me look this up. I want to see how old Jose Aldo is now. He's 37, I mean, yeah, it's just weird to see him retire and come back. I mean, maybe he wants to retire on a win. I would love that for him. He's got a tough test in front of him, though. I mean, Jonathan Martinez is no joke. He's a great all-around mixed martial artist, but if we're talking legacy, we're talking career pedigree, we're talking just everything in general, I think Jose Aldo's got it all on this guy, apart from age. But that's the real question in this fight. Will the age get the better of Jose Aldo in this fight? I mean, it's not like he hasn't looked competitive in his last few fights. I mean, with Marov, I actually thought he did a good job. He just got hugged on the cage the whole time. With Petr Yan, I think he did a really good job as well, until Petr Yan just went Petr Yan in the last championship rounds there. But I think Jose Aldo has enough to beat Jonathan Martinez. We will see on Saturday night. But I do think Jose Aldo is more than capable of beating Jonathan Martinez this Saturday in the JNSA Arena. I mean, I'm not sleeping on Jonathan Martinez by any means, but I think Jose Aldo is going to get a 3rd round TKO in this fight, take Martinez to deep waters, and show the championship pedigree of a phenomenal fighter like Jose Aldo is. Give me Aldo by 3rd round TKO. Alright, main event of the evening. Alexandre Pantoja, the reigning defending flyweight champ, versus Steve Erceg out of Perth, Western Australia, from down under. Can Steve Erceg pull off the upset? That's where... Well, actually, I want to start this fight with Pantoja, because we know about Pantoja. He's got the heart, he's got the dog in him. I'm a big Pantoja guy, to be honest. I really do like this guy, I will say. He did beat up on Brandon Moreno, which kind of upset me a little bit. But I think Pantoja's a great fighter, man. He's got that dog in him. You know, he's a beast. He's getting a title defense in Rio. Like, good for him, man. I'm happy for him. He deserves it. But I will say, there's something about this Steve Erceg that I really like. There's something about this kid. And I mean, when it got announced, like, the fight, I was just like, okay, whatever. Easy win for Pantoja. But after doing my research on this guy, like, I really like this kid. You know, there's something about him. I think he can get this job done. Like, he's a lot more skilled looking back than I thought he would be. And I mean, I wish he wasn't getting this title fight so early. That's the only thing, because if he would have had another contender to his name, I think he might even... No, he wouldn't be a betting favorite against Pantoja, but he'd be close. But it's these kind of fights that champions can lose. They get a little too caught up in the moment, and they forget about the task they have in front of them. I'm not saying Pantoja's one of those guys, but still, just something about the Steve Erceg just interests the hell out of me. And I do really think he's more than capable of winning a big fight like this. I really do. The only thing I'm worried about with Erceg is how he handles that Brazilian crowd. When they're just shouting at him in Portuguese, "You're gonna die!" And they're throwing shit at him at the press conference and the weigh-ins and on his walkout. Like, that's the only thing I worry about with Erceg, because we haven't seen him in a hostile environment yet. And if you want a hostile environment, fight a Brazilian in Brazil, dude. Like, shout out for, I shouldn't say shout out, but I mean, Colby Covington gave it back to the Brazilian fans, and I mean, I don't think they've been too kind to any Americans ever since. But this could be a very interesting fight, man. I think Erceg can really match Pantoja skill for skill. I really do think Erceg is gonna be one of the lead of the next generation of flyweights. But I'm gonna predict Pantoja in this fight. But even with everything I said about Steve Erceg, I'm gonna predict Pantoja to win this fight. I think he'll get a decision. I don't think he's going to get Steve Erceg out of there. One factor that really interests me is cardio. Steve Erceg has a really good gas tank and can knock you out in pretty well every round of the fight. And Pantoja has been, as we've seen in previous fights, he does have that dog in him, but man, he can get pretty damn tired. So maybe Steve Erceg can get a late finish. Maybe, but I think Pantoja gets the job done. I'm going to predict him by decision, but I think Steve Erceg's going to earn a lot of respect from those in the company and those watching at home, because I think this kid's got a lot more in the tank than what we're all saying here. I do think there's something special about this kid. Anyways, guys, that is going to do it. These are my UFC 301 predictions in Rio, headlined by Pantoja and Erceg for the flyweight title at JNSA Arena in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe and notifications turned on so you don't miss my next UFC prediction video, and that will be Islam and Poirier. That could be an interesting one, and then Conor's after that. Oh, I want to see Conor back in the octagon so bad. It's been 3 years. 3 years. Oh my god. But anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed. Take care and peace.